So I also talk about sexism in the book, which we've kind of gotten into already. What did you guys think about that chapter? And was there a specific part maybe that, you know, you were like, oh my goodness, that's
I read
crazy.
that, the purpose
Yes. My gosh.
That section that I love. You know what I thought was, let's see. Oh, you actually go into it in the next chapter. But the section that I really, what?
No, you can go ahead, but there was something.
Go ahead.
In this chapter. It was when you were talking about an event that you spoke at.
Yeah.
And you received a call back that they wanted you to speak again. But this time they wanted you to be in front of the pulpit and not behind the pulpit, because that was designated only for men.
Yeah.
So reading that at 5 a.m. in the morning, I was like, what? What is this? And you've told me many stories about your experiences in ministry and preaching and kind of your interactions with men and women.
Yeah.
And it angers me, to be honest. It really does.
Yeah.
Because you know, if someone asks you to come and preach, right? That person should be held to high esteem.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So why is it that I have to be in front of the pulpit, right? You're creating a set, like that level of division between me and someone else. And what is it that they're offering that I'm not offering? I think that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about that experience.
You know, that for me was like my first in your face experience with sexism in ministry, not in my life. The first time I preached at that church, it was a great experience. So much so that they wanted me to return. And let me just say, in defense of the person who reached out to me, who was the contact person, having that conversation with me was very uncomfortable for him. And it wasn't coming from him, it was coming from his pastor. And he said, Pastor Jen, I would really love to have you, but my pastor is saying this is what it needs to be. I took a long pause. I think I told him I would get back to him. I wanted to talk to my parents about it. If I recall, my mother told me not to go. You know, mom do. She's always like, oh, absolutely not. I wanted to prove something. I went, preached again. It was a great experience. I respected their rule. And I feel like my assignment was completed and people were blessed and people were saved. I guess that was my way of saying what I have to bring to the table is no different than what a man has to bring to the table. And I'm gonna come and show you that I deserve to be up there just like the other person. That's why I did it. Looking back, maybe I should have asked to speak with the pastor and share how I feel, my thoughts on that. I don't know. But again, I was so young, still so very mature, not really knowing how to deal with my emotions. And I wasn't getting like a whole lot of invitations to preach. So if we could be honest with that, I'm like, this is good for, you know, for me. It's an opportunity. But it was hard. It was hard.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
I'd have been like, no.
I know you would.
So
Tasha would be like, oh.
If you had another speaking engagement and they said pretty much the same thing, that, hey, you know, because you're not a man, you have to preach in front.
Now, if that happened
how
today,
would you handle that situation? Or would you actually go?
I would say no. If I can't be behind the pulpit, then you can't have me. Absolutely, that would be my stance now.
In addition to trying to speak to the pastor, because sometimes you can. I think that
with them.
What upsets me, especially in ministry, and especially like all culture, I feel like sometimes they feel like they can't learn from people younger than them.
Absolutely.
People up and coming. Like while I'm growing, I can still help you learn directly or even or indirectly. And I think that's a big struggle for them. Like at the end of the day, like we need to be able to evolve. Like you said, your mindset cannot be the same
forever.
20 years ago today. And so I would probably I definitely would have said no, just like I said, but I would have said, I would like to meet with you.
Just to understand.
Let's talk about that. You know, and do we think that this is the tone that we want to set for our young women in ministry?
Absolutely. I agree.
Sometimes I wonder if they even have a real logical reason for some of the
things
rules
that
things that they kind of say or believe.
Sure.
And one thing I'm just thinking about is how would an authentic relationship with that person affect the way that they handle.
True.
Right? So it's very easy for people to set these rules without kind of getting to know you, right? Because they're like, okay,
connected.
Right. It's sort of like a blanket rule, like this is how you know what everyone needs to kind
until
of
it's their son or daughter.
Until it's their son or daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you kind of have to reevaluate,
exactly.
Like, maybe this doesn't work. It doesn't make sense.
You have to put yourself in perspective. Put things in perspective.
And that really pushes us to put ourselves in people's shoes.
Yes. Exactly.
Before we make decisions like, you know, would I think differently if it was my child or if it were me?
Right.
And that's something we need to be intentional about because subconsciously we may make decisions just blatantly and without thinking, without processing. Right. So that's interesting.
That is.
So I don't know if you guys saw the part where there was this woman in my church who
she didn't want to.
The one who
didn't want to say
that. I was just gonna say it. That was one of my best parts. We're looking back at the chapter.
I couldn't actually read it and pronounce it. So how did it come out?
She was like a hydrogen, legit, just like that all the time. And I thought maybe the first, for something happens the first time, you don't really think anything of it.
Yeah.
It was a consistent thing, you guys. Like anything to not
say
acknowledge her.
Not acknowledge that I'm a pastor. Wow. And I spoke to my father about it. I was like, Dad, look, we have people in the church who refuse to acknowledge me by my title, and I'm not title hungry.
Right.
If she was just saying Sister Jennifer, it would have been fine. Right. It's that she's mocking me. Yeah. You know, she's disrespecting me, really, for lack of a better expression. And I shared this with my father, and can I just say thank you to my father, who maybe he is more open and progressive because I'm his daughter, so it's forcing him and stretching him to really but he really defends me when it comes to these types of issues. And I'll never forget, in Bible study one day, she did it in front of him, and he said, it's Pastor Jennifer. And she got all upset, like, well, we always knew her as Jennifer, it's just not coming out.
So really the truth came out.
He said, you need to train yourself to now know her as Pastor Jennifer.
Love it.
Girl, I was like, that's my dad.
That's right.
Yeah.
You need to train yourself.
He said, train yourself to know her as Pastor
But to be able to have people that defend you,
right?
People that have authority, that have a voice,
exactly.
Or even just a relationship with a person. Having someone that can advocate for you and defend you, that is so important. We need to find more people like that.
And I'm glad you said that, because this raises a point, not anything that I said in my book. People in leadership need to understand that their voice in certain situations are important. When you are in a leadership role and you remain silent to what is being done to a certain group of people, you become responsible. Because you are in that position, people will listen to you, and you have the influential power to make a positive change.
I agree.
So when I see people in leadership seeing things and they're not speaking on it, that's a problem.
It is a problem.
So I talk about the elephant in the room.
Whoa, that joke was deep for me.
Was it?
Yeah, only because I have to keep it 100.
Sure.
I never came across that passage.
Really?
I didn't.
Okay.
No, I never did. But y'all already know.
It's an angel. In fact, it's the scripture that many pastors would use to suppress women.
Right. Yes, I never really came across. I guess, or maybe I just didn't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
So let's kind of specify
so
exactly
they know
what passage
we're talking about.
So I'm just going to read here. It says, how does a female pastor like myself, who claims to be a Bible-based Christian, reconcile with 1 Timothy 2, verses 11 to 12, which reads, let the woman learn in silence with all subjection. But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence. Or 1 Corinthians 14, 34 to 35, which reads, let your women keep silence in the church. For it is not permitted unto them to speak, but they are commanded to be under obedience, as also saith the law. And if they will learn anything, let them ask their husbands at home, for it is a shame for women to speak in the church.
This was tough for me. It was, because as a woman who fears God, I was like, at the end of the day, I want to please God. And if I genuinely am like operating like outside of the Bible, then I'm not comfortable with that.
Right.
And so I had to get to a point where I was like, but I also knew that I was called.
Yeah.
So I was like, God, you don't contradict yourself. Right. Why would this be your word, but then you call me to speak and to minister? I'm not doing this on my own. In fact, I ran away from this calling. You know it. Yeah. I saw what my dad went through in ministry, and I didn't want anything to do with church people. No. So I was like, Lord, how is it that you could call me, but in the same breath put this in your word? So before, the easier thing to do, literally when anybody even went near these chapters, like I would get so weird and uncomfortable. Yeah. But then I was like, no, let me study it.
Yeah.
I started really studying the Bible for myself. I started getting in contact with some of my theologians, some of my friends who went to seminary and were Bible scholars. And God started to reveal to me, no. In fact, Paul, because I couldn't stand Paul. Paul was like my least favorite person in the Bible back then. I was like, he was a woman bashing, and he was just so rigid and like, like be silent, go away. Yeah. He was just rough from all the way off. He was murdering people. He went from one extreme to another. Basically, there was no in between. I was like, yeah, Paul, you and I, we don't get along. But then I realized, wait, Paul would have been somebody I loved. He actually was empowering women. In fact, you guys know I'm very organized. What he couldn't stand was the chaos in the church setting. That would annoy me too. Like if we're in worship and people are like, about that, like interrupting worship. In fact, there was somebody in our church who was like that. He's no longer at the church, but like the pastor could be preaching and he's thinking he and the pastor are having a dialogue. And he would like throw words back. And in that moment, while I was writing that book, it was like in the little things, God is in everything. I felt like he was using that guy in my church to show to me what this temple looked like back in Paul's day. Got it. And I felt very uneasy and disturbed by him disrupting the service. And so I think in any entity there needs to be structure and organization, and that's what Paul was trying to instill in these people. But he had friends. He had female friends in ministry. And you need to get the book to really understand how I really developed this and explain how Paul actually was a defender of women and not an opposer.
I love that.
Redemption Day devotional. So I have 5 devotionals that I share in the book, and each of them are based on women from the Bible. Is there anyone in particular that you liked the most?
I actually like the first story. Mary and Martha. And in here you kind of mentioned too that you could be busy doing work, but maybe not the right kind of work. So being intentional and purposeful about the stuff that you spend your time doing and what's important to you, or what's important for you to be able to be doing at that moment. So with Martha, she's cleaning up and she wants to tidy up and make sure everything is good. But she was kind of overlooking the fact that
there was an opportunity.
Right in front of her. And Mary is like, forget this work. He's already here. All right, he sees the mess. Let me just take time to kind of bask in his glory and to learn what it is that I need to be learning. So I thought that was actually really good.
That was really good.
And I feel like we do need to be very intentional and discern different moments in our lives, because they come so quickly and they leave just as quickly, and you can miss a moment, like and I share about how I met my husband. That was a moment that I had to seize from just the interview itself.
That car moment,
girl,
I was like, dang, that's deep.
Isn't that deep? No, but that was my Martha
and
experience.
It just comparing
it all with Chris, Tosh. I could have not went, period. It all boils down to that. If I wasn't intentional about making it to that interview, I would have never met my husband. And that's how we have to be when opportunities present ourselves. I think we get complacent. If it's not working, we're like, I don't have a car. I don't. Being intentional and not giving up, no, I need to seize this opportunity. So yeah, that's actually one of my favorite devotionals in the book, the Martha one. Yeah. Well, ladies, I think we had a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. And I will be sharing their bios on my website, jenniferjoseph.org. If you don't have a copy of this book already, please go get it. I truly believe that it will bless you. Women empowerment is my heart. It really is my passion. And I look forward to your support.
Yes.
Bye, guys. God bless you.
Bye.